Sam and I over-rehabbed a house when we first got started because we were new agents and we didn't hire a professional. We just thought we could do it ourselves. Added an extra bathroom, added an extra, finished the basement, added an extra bedroom with an egress, and then we thought it would sell for 80 grand over anything in the neighborhood would.
So we got Matt Becker with us today. He is the owner of Magnolia STL Brokerage. So I'll let him introduce himself, but I'll pump him up a little bit. He is one of the more talented people we know.
What drew you to real estate?
Oh, it was the fact that I wanted to be able to make more money.
Yeah.
I hated the fact that I was stuck in a state salary. I had a pay grid that I followed. I got raises when the governor wanted to give us raises. And if I wasn't going to move to Jeff City, I didn't have any chances to advance. Yeah. So, and I worked holidays and weekends. I missed the kids stuff.
So you want some flexibility and some better income.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I hate when agents say, well, I wanted more flexibility. It does give us flexibility, but we work 7 days a week.
Yeah, the good agents work a lot of hours.
Yeah. So then in 2015, I had taken off business-wise, and so I was able to launch my own team. I was with Berkshire Hathaway Select Properties in St. Louis, and so we were able to launch our own team. We started with about 4 or 5 of us. We had some growing pains, you hired some people. I hired 2 that never even got licensed, so that was fun, But then we started killing it.
Now, how many agents are you at?
We'll breach 100 agents this month.
Nice.
So,
100
triple
agents.
digits.
Yeah, so very excited.
You're kind of losing that, or in a good way. You can't really call yourself small boutique. I mean, you can, but like 100 agents, I know there's thousands of agents companies, but you're a medium boutique now, which is that what you would say?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is that even with 100, we still feel like a small family. And part of that's because of the culture that we've created in this building and within all of our family of companies that we still coordinate with on a daily basis. Everybody's a member of the Magnolia family, and they still feel like that.
So let's talk about 1995, because this was a cool part of his presentation for those that weren't there, which is probably most people. Probably a few people there are listening, but it was a really cool part of his presentation. He talked about, the year Toy Story came out and a couple other things happened, and he tied it all together. So why don't you kind of go through that if you don't mind?
Yeah, no. So 1995 was a terrible year in real estate. We didn't sell a lot, but there wasn't a whole lot going on back then. The market wasn't near what it is now. But what's crazy about 1995 is we had 70 million less people in the United States in 1995. We had 40 million less jobs in 1995 than we do now. And yet in 2023, we sold the same number of houses in 2023 that we did in 1995. Like, to me, that's insane with all of the people we have. And so everybody always wants an answer to what's created this huge market and what's created these high sale prices. It's because we have no inventory. We have 70 million more people and we're still selling the same number of houses we were in 1995. So to me, that's just absolutely crazy, but that's real estate and it's supply and demand, simple economics.
We knew 2023 was tough, right? But we're like, man, prices keep going up. Why is it so tough? Like from a real estate investor standpoint. Right. But then we just started to dig into the transactions. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's half of the transactions it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even go back to 1995, but I looked at 2008, 9, and it was like, those got to be the lowest transactions like ever, which they pretty much were.
Right.
But you go back another 13 years to 1995, and it's still just as low as that. Whatever 30 years later. Yeah. That is unbelievable.
It's crazy. And that's why, when people say the market is crazy, it's not crazy. It's competitive. Yeah. That's what it boils down to. And so you have to know your numbers, and we've got people buying their first homes at 250 and 300, and that's a new home price right now in our market.
So can you give some strategies for somebody listing their house? Because you talked a lot about this in the presentation, just like overall, you kind of know where I'm going, where to list, how to prepare the house, those kind of things. If somebody's wanting to sell their house, because right now you can sell it and you can list it and not have it sell. A couple years ago, no matter what you did, it sold. Now you do have to do a few strategies to maximize. So why don't you talk about those a little bit?
Pricing. No,
Okay.
You got to understand the market you're in. You got to understand the street you're on. You got to understand the finishes that you have. And you go out right now, buyers are paying a large amount of money for a home that could have got $50,000 cheaper a year or two ago, but market is what it is. And so when they walk in, they know they're going to have to fight for these houses, and they're not going to go in, they're not going to fight for something that's already overpriced, and especially if the finishes suck. So the pricing is so important, and you can't go off of just the comp sale prices. You got to look and see where those comparable properties started with their sale price.
Yeah. Well, one of my fears when we first kind of learned about this strategy or whatever was that, hey, we listed at this, but it sells for X amount over, that it's not going to appraise, and then we're going to have to come back down anyway. But what have you seen with appraisers? Have they gotten used to kind of everything going over asking, or have you seen some come in lower if they go over asking?
No, we I think appraisers do a phenomenal job. And of course, just like with any industry, you might have a bad apple or two, but for the most part, we have seen these appraisers work really hard, and they got a tough job. Yeah. Things are increasing so quickly that they don't want to harm the market, but they also want to protect the consumer. And so I think that at the end of the day, what we're seeing is a lot of times the appraisers do want to know what was the competition on this house. And we get those phone calls every day. We've gotten to the point where a lot of our agents will just leave a one-page sheet in the house for the appraiser that says, hey, just so you know, we were listed at $250, we had 32 offers, and we sold it for $310, and that was 100 showings in a weekend. Right. And so giving them that information helps them. Nice. And allows them to do the best job they can.
So can you give some strategies for agents working with investors and vice versa? Because you wear both hats. Most people don't. So somebody that is an investor that wants to work with an agent, maybe start with that, and then the other way around, if somebody's listening to this, an agent, and they want to start to get some investors in their pocket.
Biggest thing with working with an agent is make sure that if you're an investor and you're going to list a house, or you're going to be working with a realtor, make sure you start that relationship way before the project's done. You want that realtor to be able to provide you some input on that house. They're the ones that are selling houses in that market all day, every day. And hopefully.
They're the
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Make sure you're interviewing your realtors, because that's the thing, is that if you're flipping a house in an area of town that realtor's never been to, might not be the best case scenario.
For sure, or a price point that they're not used to.
Right, absolutely. At least make sure that the brokerage has a bit of a footprint there, or has done business there, so they understand the market. But once you have identified who your realtor is, make sure you do that early on, and then have the conversations with them. What can, we were thinking about painting this wall this, or we were thinking about doing this to the fireplace, or whatever the case may be. Get some tips from them, because they know what sells and what people are looking for. We can get rid of an all gray house with, luxury vinyl plank floors and all white cabinets. We can sell it. But it doesn't have some of the wow factor. And maybe I can get you a better price if you give me an accent wall, or you give me something that's a little bit cool.
So what are some of the things that agents don't like when they deal with investors, and what are some of the things that oh, this is the ideal investor to work with, or oh, I don't like working with these types of investors?
So I think one of the ones that frustrates us the most is when you don't know your numbers, or you don't keep track of what you've spent your money on. When we get you to the closing table, or we get you to the title company, we're going to have to provide receipts and lien waivers. If you didn't file a notice of intent to sell, you better be able to provide us receipts and lien waivers. And if we ask you for something, it's not that we just want it for our own good. It's because we need it. And so I think there's a lot of investors that are out there like, well, I just did this, it's fine. That's not good enough.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of the, you got pretty good ties. You're in Washington, D.C. several times a year. So talk a little bit about some of the things that NAR and your connections are working on to make real estate more accessible for people.
Sure. So in accordance with the settlement, so it says one of the big consumer bodies that we were worried about were veteran buyers. Right now, if you're a veteran, you have access to a VA loan, and there is a rule, if you're using a VA loan, that you, as the buyer, are not allowed to compensate your agent. So if you wanted representation on a home, the seller has to pay your buyer's agent. You're not allowed to. Good news is, after a lot of advocating by NAR, all the realtors, VA came out this week and said, we're looking at changing our rules. I would hope that by next week or the week after, we're going to see it in writing, but they have signaled that they are going to roll that back, and a VA buyer can continue representation if they want to pay their buyer's agent themselves, if the seller is not paying. So that's a huge win for us. VA needed to do that. A lot of people don't understand the VA loans and that process. It's an amazing loan program that these guys have earned the right to use, and it would really suck if we told them, hey, congratulations, you served our country, you get to use this loan program, but you got to go buy a house without any representation because we don't want to change our rules. So we got that changed, or it's going to be changed here soon, so exciting news about that. The other big thing that they're working on in DC is trying to get more homes on the market, and actually I think the bill's name is like More Homes on the Market, something bill.
Very creative.
Yeah, right.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Make sure to hit that like button, comment with something you learned, and make sure to subscribe to this channel. We give away more free advice on how to create wealth based on things we actually do every single day than any other channel on YouTube. Make sure to share this with a friend, because our mission is to inspire you to think differently about freedom.